I honestly never imagined myself as the type to carefully plot someone's ruin. But there I was, lurking in the periphery of the Hayes Industries Convention Center, observing my dad declare my brother Connor as the new CEO of the company I'd established. "It's with immense joy," my father's voice resonated through the sound system, "that I announce the future leadership at Hayes Interiors. My son, Connor Hayes, is going to be taking over starting today." The audience burst into enthusiastic applause. I stood stock-still near the rear of the ballroom, gripping my champagne flute so forcefully that I was shocked it hadn't already broken. 9 years. I devoted 9 years of my life to that company, turning my father's failing furniture business into an $87 million commercial interior design powerhouse. And just like that, he'd given it all to my brother, who had only joined us a little over a year ago after his tech venture failed. My phone vibrated. Lisa Morgan, our CFO and my closest confidant, had sent a text. "Charlotte, were you aware of this?" I didn't reply. I couldn't reply. My gaze was fixed on the stage where Connor, my younger brother by 4 years, was shaking hands with our father, Jonathan Hayes. Connor's eyes moved across the crowd until they met mine. The subtle, smug look on his face told me everything I had to understand. This wasn't news to him. It was all deliberate. The rest of the evening was a complete haze. I plastered on a smile. I offered nods. I tapped glasses with the board members who kept avoiding my gaze. I took empty compliments from staffers who looked bewildered but wouldn't voice their questions about Jonathan Hayes's move. Not out loud, at least. "You must be thrilled for your brother," Richard Keller, one of our biggest investors, commented. His eyes were looking for something from me. "It was certainly a surprise," I responded calmly. "If you don't mind, I need to get going." I escaped the crowd, heading back to my office located at the very top of Hayes Tower. The downtown skyline that usually filled me with satisfaction now felt like it was making fun of me. I slumped down into my chair, the depth of the deception flooding over me. My father hadn't even had the consideration to warn me before he made the announcement. I was completely caught off guard in front of everyone, our partners, our clients, and our workforce. I opened my laptop and immediately went to our company bylaws. As the one who inherited my mother's business share after she passed away 7 years prior, I had a 55% ownership stake in Hayes Interiors. My father couldn't legally have made this decision without me agreeing to it. Unless... I looked through one document after another and didn't see anything. Then I spotted it. A board resolution from 2 months ago, apparently with my signature on it, authorizing a short-term transfer of voting power to the board for the purpose of succession planning. A signature I absolutely did not provide. My phone began to ring. It was Lisa. "Charlotte, what in the world is happening? You created this whole business. Everybody's aware of that." I gazed at the forged papers on my computer. "Lisa, I've been outmaneuvered, but not for long." "So what's your plan?" she questioned. I shut my laptop. "I'm going to reclaim what rightfully belongs to me." That evening, I drove back to my vacant penthouse, the city lights turning into a smear of color through the tears I was fighting to hold back. My mind drifted to my mother, who had faith in me when my dad never did. I recalled the years I poured into revitalizing Hayes Interiors after my father almost ruined it. I thought about the clients I brought in, the designers I employed, and the good name I'd made. Everything gone in a flash. I could just give up, start all over. But that would mean letting them get away with it, allowing my father and brother to take the praise for everything I had achieved. No, I wouldn't quietly fade away. I wouldn't be the example of a woman who worked relentlessly only to see everything taken away by men who felt they deserved it all. I poured myself a drink of scotch and went out to my balcony, looking out at the city that had seen me succeed. By dawn, it would witness the start of my fight back. Because I wasn't only a victim of deception anymore. I was now the planner of my revenge. For the following 7 days, I gathered information, all while acting like everything was perfectly fine. I went to the office, gave Connor a friendly smile while he was sitting in my asterisk chair, and acted like I didn't know what was going on. But all along, I was building my argument. The first piece of proof I got came from Lisa. She had the ability to access the financial records that Connor and my dad believed were secret. "They've been quietly sabotaging you for quite a while now," she revealed, as she pushed a folder across my dining room table on Sunday evening. "Take a look at these fund transfers. Every important decision you made during the last 3 months was changed in small ways. The Miller account you saved. They made it seem like it was failing when you were in charge, and then Connor fixed it with his new ideas. I looked through the documents, and my fury changed into something more controlled, more intense. What about the board's vote, the one with the fake signature? Lisa looked serious. I found the original. It didn't actually exist. They made a document that looked like it was from the past and sent it around through a special email system that you weren't on. Most of the board members probably thought you already knew. Who was the one who actually forged my signature? That would have been Jackson from the legal department. And before you ask, yes, he's on your father's side. They've been friends since they were in college. I agreed, making a note of another name in my mind. And what about the voting rights transfer? It's not truly valid because I never actually agreed, but they've made it appear official with all the paperwork. They've been cautious, Charlotte. However, they weren't careful enough. I got my laptop and brought up the company's original paperwork, the ones my mom and dad wrote up before I even existed. There's something in here about succession disputes. If a main shareholder challenges a leadership choice, it means there has to be an emergency board meeting where they present evidence. Lisa asked, leaning closer, so you could demand a reevaluation. More than that, I replied, a genuine smile finally appearing on my face after days. I can make them hold a vote, and with my evidence, I believe I can persuade enough of the board members. Your dad won't just give up, you know. I closed the file, neither will I. During the next few days, I meticulously built my argument. I went through 9 years' worth of meeting records and found times when Connor took the credit for things I did. I discovered emails where my dad intentionally left me out of important decisions, even though I owned the majority of the shares. I made a list of the board members who might support me, the ones who had been with me from the start and knew how important I was to the business. The most damaging proof appeared from an unexpected place. Jake, my assistant who had been sent away to help with the changeover, gave me a thumb drive. He whispered, "Ms. Hayes," as we walked by each other in the corridor. "You really have to see this. They didn't seem to realize I could still get into Connor's calendar." That evening, I connected the drive and uncovered a treasure trove. 9 months' worth of meeting recordings, including one where my dad and Connor openly talked about how to remove Charlotte without causing problems with her shares. They knew exactly what they were up to. "She's too concerned with the creative stuff," my father's voice came from my laptop speakers. "She isn't able to see the bigger picture to bring Hayes Interiors global. We need to get this done quickly before she realizes how much sway she really has." Connor's laughter was chilling. "Don't stress, Dad. By the time she catches on, it'll be too late. The board will be totally on our side." I listened to the recording 3 times, letting their comments feed my growing anger. After that, I sent an email to the entire company, asking for an emergency board meeting, mentioning Article 7 of the company charter that deals with disputed leadership changes. The reaction was instant. My father called me almost immediately. "Charlotte," he stated, his voice full of that same condescending tone. "This is pointless. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Connor is a better choice." "Save it for the board meeting, Dad," I interrupted him. "I'm using my power as the majority shareholder. Unless you want me to get outside legal help, you'll follow the company charter that you and Mom established." The quiet on the other line was excruciating. At last, he said something. "All right, tomorrow at 9 in the morning. However, you're making a fool of yourself, Charlotte, plus your mom would be let down." When he mentioned my mother, a surge of anger erupted inside, so powerful I almost lost my grip on the phone. "No, Dad, Mom would be disgusted with you asterisk. I'll see you tomorrow." I put the phone down, my hands trembling. It was on. I knew I would have to fight. Tomorrow I'd get back what was rightfully mine, or I'd risk everything trying. The room was quiet as I went in with all of the team watching me. My father was at the head of the table and Connor was on his right. They both had on nearly identical suits. They seemed to be together in this. I had chosen red, which was my mother's favorite, a quiet reminder of who I really was. "Thank you all for being here," I said, my voice strong while I sat down. "As you already know, I've called this meeting under Article 7 of the Hayes Interiors rules to challenge Connor Hayes being named CEO. My father coughed. "Before we begin this pointless meeting, I'd like to remind everyone that choosing who is in charge is the board's right, and the board voted as one." "Did they?" I broke in, pushing the folders across the table for each member to review. Because I possess proof to the contrary. Proof of fake papers, altered financial statements, and deleted emails that tell another story entirely. My stomach must have flipped a little, it was clear for a second, but I pulled myself together fast. Charlotte, you shouldn't be stooping to this. We're all aware of how much effort you've poured in but leading means. Let me demonstrate precisely what being a leader truly entails, I interrupted, signaling to Lisa, who plugged her computer into the projector. Over the course of the next 60 minutes, I systematically built my argument. I showed them the fake signature on the official document. I played specific excerpts from the recordings Jake had given me. I displayed financial statements that highlighted how my prosperous projects had been subtly sabotaged to make Connor look good. It's not solely about me, I declared, focusing on each board member's gaze. It concerns the future of Hayes Interiors. Under my direction, we've expanded from a regional company earning $4 million to a national force with $87 million in revenue. I landed the Westfield contract, the Gardner renovation project, and the whole Pinnacle Hotels agreement, accounts that make up more than 40% of our earnings right now. I took a breath, allowing them to digest that. Now I'm asking you to decide. Do you favor a leadership founded on privilege and behind-the-scenes scheming, or do you want leadership founded on demonstrable success? Richard Keller, who had been observing closely during the presentation, spoke first. Jonathan, these claims are grave. The evidence Charlotte presented looks real. Did you allow a forged signature on a board resolution? My dad's complexion became noticeably flushed while I was giving my presentation. This is all family business, and it really should have stayed confidential. Charlotte is always prone to dramatics. That's not a response to the question, Diane Wu, a different board member, said. Did you or did you not falsify her signature? The room suddenly went quiet. Connor leaned in to murmur something to my father, who then dismissed him with a dismissive gesture. I did what was crucial for the company, my father stated at last. Charlotte is exceptionally talented when it comes to design, but she doesn't have the broad perspective we need to elevate Hayes Interiors. Connor offers a new point of view. Connor brings nothing but your surname to the table, I interjected sharply. His tech venture crashed and burned after squandering $12 million in funding. He has barely a year and a half of experience in our field, whereas I've been working in this industry for 9 years. And most importantly, I am the majority owner of this business, holding 55% of the shares. Legally, you cannot remove me without my permission. Lisa then stood up. As the CFO, I can corroborate everything Charlotte has said so far. Plus, I have additional records documenting deliberate attempts to sabotage her authority over the past year. I listened as the other leaders in the room began sharing their opinions. The creative director agreed that the designs supposedly Connor's were actually mine. The head of business development confirmed that our clients were very specific about wanting me on their projects. Even Jackson from legal, looking rather awkward, conceded that the signature process was questionable. My father suddenly stood up. This meeting is over. We'll meet again after legal has a chance to investigate. Jonathan, sit down, Richard Keller said in a calm tone. The company's rules are clear. When there's a leadership dispute, a vote is necessary immediately. He looked towards me. Charlotte, are you formally offering yourself as CEO? I looked directly at my father's enraged expression without flinching. I am. Then we will vote now, Richard stated. All in favor of reinstating Charlotte Hayes as the legitimate CEO of Hayes Interiors. Hands went up around the table, one after another. 13 out of 16 board members, a solid majority. The board has decided, Richard declared. Charlotte Hayes is declared the CEO of Hayes Interiors, effective now. Connor's face was tight with anger. My father stood again, his voice a menacing whisper. This isn't over, Charlotte. I smiled, feeling only a frigid calmness. Actually, Dad, it is. Security will show you and Connor out. Your personal things will be delivered to your residences. You can't do this, Connor stammered. Dad founded the company. I announced, I am the biggest investor and the new CEO once again. The access cards are no longer working for them. Just like clockwork, a pair of security personnel showed up in the doorway of the conference room. I had orchestrated everything perfectly, down to the specific second. It was obvious my father understood he had been completely outsmarted. His gaze hardened. You'll be sorry, Charlotte. You have no concept of what you've done. I stood, fastening the buttons on my jacket without any hesitation. I know precisely what I have done, Dad. I've reclaimed what is rightfully mine. As they were escorted away, I spoke to the other board members present. I appreciate your vote of support. Over the next week, I'll be scheduling individual meetings with each of you to review our future strategy. Hayes Interiors is experiencing more than just a shift in management today. We're altering our overall course. The meeting ended, and people were congratulating me. However, I didn't feel any sense of victory yet. I only felt the cold satisfaction of succeeding in the initial stage of what was certain to become an extended struggle. My father and Connor didn't leave peacefully. The next morning, they convened a spontaneous press conference in the lobby of the Four Seasons, stating they had been subject to a hostile takeover, which was due to emotional decisions. I watched the news report from my narrow-stored office, with Lisa beside me. "Should we issue a response?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. I gestured with a no. "Not now, let them keep making mistakes." And they really dug in, didn't they? Later that day, Connor went on Bloomberg Business, saying he'd crafted this amazing expansion plan that I'd wrecked because I was envious. My dad, bless his heart, also started contacting our main clients, trying to plant seeds of doubt regarding the company's strength while I was in charge. But I knew what was coming. Even before their press conference finished, I'd already emailed every client and business partner, reassuring them that the company was solid and suggesting we set up one-on-one meetings to talk about the current projects. Our PR team put out a straightforward, factual statement about the leadership change without mentioning the conflict. The most crucial thing was that I emailed all our employees, the people who saw me create Hayes Interiors from scratch, and explained the situation as honestly and openly as I could. The reaction was just incredible. Designers and project managers who had been miserable during Connor's short stint started sharing stories of how he'd taken credit for what they'd done. Clients phoned to say how glad they were that I was back at the helm. Even some of the more cautious board members who voted against me got in touch to offer their help going forward. The most rewarding part of it all occurred 3 days after that board meeting, when someone using a hidden email account started sending internal Hayes Interiors documents to blogs that covered our industry. Those documents exposed how my father and Connor had been working behind the scenes to sabotage me. There were recordings of meetings where they spoke badly about the women in leadership positions. There was proof of their strategy to eventually get rid of everyone who was on my side once they had taken over. I never found out who was the one doing the whistleblowing. It could have been any of the employees who had seen what they were doing throughout the past year. But the real importance was what happened. By the end of that week, the reputations of my father and Connor in the industry were destroyed. Even so, I knew they wouldn't quit without a fight. The final showdown happened a week after the board meeting, when my father asked for a private meeting. "Just you and me, Charlotte," he said on the phone. "We need to talk about this as a family." I went along with it, but I picked the spot. The little conference room where, 9 years before, I had pitched my plan to keep Hayes Interiors from going bankrupt after my father's bad decisions almost ruined it. The room where he had been forced to give me control of the company because he had no other choice. He showed up right on time, appearing older than I'd recalled. Without Connor nearby, without the usual power he held in the boardroom, he looked somehow smaller. "You've made your position clear," he stated right away. "Now let's talk about a fair agreement." I settled back into my seat. "Go on." "Connor's taking over as an executive VP. I'll continue on as chairman emeritus. You'll finally have the CEO position you've always wanted. Everyone wins." I scrutinized him for a while. Why would I accept this? His face grew stern. "Because I'm still your father, Charlotte. Plus, if you refuse, I'll sell my 25% ownership to Marcus Geller." Marcus Geller, our biggest rival. The implication was obvious. Despite not being able to overrule my 55% ownership, he could still cause enough issues to hinder my ability to run things properly. "Are you serious?" I questioned softly. "You'd actually do that? Sell your shares in the business you built to a competitor just to get back at me?" "You've left me no option. You embarrassed me. You humiliated your brother, too." I opened my laptop. "Before you make threats, Dad, there's something you should see." I showed him the screen, revealing a document I hadn't shown at the board meeting. It was the initial agreement between him and my mother, including a section he'd apparently forgotten, or perhaps never even known about. If any member of the Hayes family tries to sell their shares to a competitor, I recited, the majority shareholder has first right of refusal at 75% of the market value. Mom was always sharper than you thought. He lost all color. That's not allowed. It's true, I verified it with 3 different lawyers. I shut the computer. Here. What I'm offering in response. You and Connor must leave Hayes Interiors entirely. You can keep your stock, but you'll have no involvement in day-to-day operations. In return, I won't take legal action regarding the forgery, which would be both humiliating and potentially land you in jail. He just watched me, like he truly saw me for the very first time. He wasn't looking at his daughter anymore, but a professional who had consistently outsmarted him in business. You wouldn't actually take your own father to court, he said, but he didn't sound sure of himself. I held his gaze without flinching. Don't doubt it. We were silent for a long moment. Then he stood up. I always knew you were more like your mother than me, he said, and I couldn't tell if he was being mean or if he was actually admitting something. We'll get you our resignations before the end of today. He went to the door and stopped. Was any of this worth it, Charlotte, ruining your family for this company? I considered all the years I'd been overlooked, the credit he'd taken for my efforts, the constant ways he'd undermined me, the awful public embarrassment at the gala. You wrecked our family, Dad, I said softly. I just wouldn't allow you to wreck me as well. After he left, I sat by myself in that conference room for quite a while, feeling not the joy of victory I had anticipated, but a strange, empty calmness. I had won, but it came at a price. You're supposed to always be able to depend on your family. Mine had turned out to be the ones who betrayed me the most. However, I also realized I had unexpected friends. Lisa had backed me completely, no questions asked. Jake took a chance and helped me get important proof. Plus, the board members acknowledged my worth, and the employees had secretly backed me the whole time. Maybe the real accomplishment was finding out who truly trusted me when things got really difficult. Fast forward 6 months, and Hayes Interiors was flourishing. We'd landed 3 huge international deals, grown our design team, and relocated our office to a stylish new building that I'd personally crafted. The original Hayes Tower, where my dad held court for so long, looked small and old from across the city. I had purchased my father's shares, not with the 75% discount I could have gotten, but for their full worth. I didn't need the financial benefit. I needed to move on. Connor had already sold his small part of the business and moved to California to try a new company. I truly hoped he'd find success. The fury that had pushed me changed into something constructive, a drive to build something so outstanding that the betrayal would be a small note in my story, rather than the main event. On the company's 25th anniversary, I hosted a gala in the exact ballroom where my dad had announced Connor as the new CEO. But this time, I was on the stage, speaking to all the designers, leaders, clients, and partners who had been a part of our trip. I began by telling the crowd, Hayes Interiors started with a basic idea that our surroundings affect us, that the places we're in are significant. That design goes beyond just how things look. It's about building opportunities. I stopped, letting my eyes take in everyone. When my parents first created this business, they could never have guessed what it would eventually be. And when I took over 9 years ago, I never knew the hurdles we would have to jump or how far we would get. Lisa lifted her glass from the front, a little sign of support that really touched me. Presently, we're not just remembering our history. We're introducing what's to come. Hayes Interiors is moving into sustainable commercial design, with plans to open 3 international offices in the coming months, along with a new foundation that will offer scholarships to young designers from underrepresented groups. The clapping was loud and enthusiastic. Once it started to fade, I picked up my drink. I've gotten a lot of important information while growing this company, but the most critical thing I've learned is that achievement isn't about who gets recognized. It's about who does the actual labor. It's about developing something bigger than yourself, something that will live on. I lifted my glass. To Hayes Interiors, to the spaces we design, the experiences we form, and the futures we construct as a team. That night, the party was still going strong, but I needed a little peace, so I slipped out onto the balcony for a bit. Down below, the city glittered, a million chances spread out before me. I reflected on my journey from 6 months prior, when I'd been standing right here, consumed by fury and the sting of betrayal. The door opened, and Lisa came out to stand next to me at the railing. "You've really changed," she observed, gesturing toward the party inside. "The business, this building, you yourself." I grinned. I had amazing support. "You know," she added a bit later, "your dad was here earlier. Security noticed him in the lobby, but he left before anything began." I took this in calmly. "He's still hopping, I'll mess up." "Or perhaps he understands what he missed out on," Lisa offered. "But it doesn't make any difference. You've created something he can't wreck now." She was completely correct. The company I had taken back and reformed was doing better than it ever had when my father was in charge. The sense of being wronged that almost ruined me had pushed me to defend what was rightfully mine, and while battling for it, I had found a resilience I didn't know I had. Down below, some young designers from our mentoring initiative were coming, their enthusiasm obvious even from up here. One of them stood out, because her work had immediately captured my interest. Bold, original pieces that reminded me of the things I had created when I was starting out. "I figured I ought to go back indoors," I announced, standing up a little straighter. "The new Hayes Interiors crew has just showed up." As I returned to the party, offering the new people a sincere welcome, I understood that something crucial had transformed within me. The retribution I had carefully plotted and carried out had done more than just give me what I deserved. It provided me with liberation, from my dad's influence, from my self-questioning, from all the accomplishments I'd never received credit for. When all was said and done, the best revenge wasn't about causing harm. It was all about becoming better, developing into something far beyond what they imagined I was capable of, creating something entirely my own that nobody could ever take away from me again. I had not simply seized my power. I had also changed it into something superior to what it had been before. That truly was the most satisfying triumph of all.